This morning we want to talk about how important it is to pass the American Jobs and Closing Tax Loopholes Act. This is very much about jobs as well as helping those who are still looking for work right now, but a number of very important provisions to help businesses right now in what is still a very tough economy.
We've got to get back to much more robust employment. The bill that we're considering this week, and I hope we can pass as soon as possible, carries on in the tradition of the Recovery Act, the HIRE Act, and so many other initiatives that have already changed the direction from a huge hemorrhaging of jobs, 700,000 plus in January of 2009, to several months of job growth, to a direction that is positive but has to be accelerated, has to be increased, and this legislation we're talking about will do that. You know, we've got to essentially keep the pedal to the metal. We can't now pull back because we're seeing some improving job numbers. We have to keep this up until this recovery is robust and self-sustaining. That's really at the heart of what we're talking about in this legislation. There are several provisions I'd like to mention. First, the research and development tax credit. This is exactly how we generate the jobs of the future, through research and development, bringing new products online, new processes online, new ways to produce things, as well as new things to produce.
One provision that I was pleased to author, along with Senator Hatch, is a provision that allows refunds for companies currently not making a profit, but if they have AMT credits, alternative minimum tax credits, they can get refunds that would allow them to fund up to 10% of new investments in equipment and in manufacturing. So it's a way to get capital back to businesses.
It would allow companies to depreciate capital improvements and provides tax credits to businesses that purchase equipment. This frees up balance sheet cash to invest in new equipment, invest in new facilities. Oh, and by the way, particularly with respect to facilities, that's putting people to work building those facilities. So this has a multiplier effect also.
We have increases in funding for SBA loans. We are hearing over and over again about small businesses. In fact, we intend to, after this bill is passed, move to an additional small business bill to create capital and help create jobs through small business. There's new real estate development support and new market tax credits and efforts on biodiesel that will continue jobs in alternative energy. For appliance manufacturers, important provision. We happen to have a few of those in Michigan as well, and very important provisions that will encourage and support their efforts to make energy-efficient appliances. There's an additional $5 billion in tax cuts for middle-class families in this bill. We already, through last year's efforts and the making work pay tax credits, have seen for families the lowest tax rates in decades. This will continue that by adding an additional $5 billion in tax cuts for this year.
This bill will also extend unemployment benefits through the end of November. That's very important. And it's also part of our ability to maintain demand, maintain consumer activity. If you look at the numbers, for every dollar of unemployment that we put into the system, about $1.70 or so is generated in economic activity. People take the money, they go to the Targets and to the CVS stores, they buy, they have to keep their family whole. That's important. We're also looking at $1 billion for the National Housing Trust Fund. Now, this is a trust fund that was set up 2 years ago by legislation. It hasn't been funded. We're going to fund it for the first time. This is designed, this fund, to provide communities with monies to build, preserve, and rehabilitate affordable housing. We still, even in the wake of this collapsing housing bubble, have people who can't afford adequate, decent housing. But the other aspect of this is so critical, is this will match local community efforts to put people to work building and rehabilitating housing. One of the areas where we've seen the greatest decrease in employment, and also an area which is not high-tech, it's important but not high-tech, is in the building trades. If we can get people back building homes, we'll see a lot of middle-income working families once again at work, and that's what we want to do. We're seeing recovery, but if we stop now, if we don't continue sensible support for job creation in this country, that job growth will flatten out and will not get to where we want to be as quickly as we must get there.
And if we want to keep it going in the right direction, we have to continue to invest in innovation and incentives and availability of capital for businesses to be able to create jobs. That's what this bill is about, and we are working very hard to be able to get a final vote on that next week.